Learning Python Basic Difficulty Part 2 Lists. Lists are variables that store multiple items inside it. Items can be located inside the list using its index. Here is an example of a list. As you can see, the variable myList contains an integer, a float, a string, and a boolean. Lists can contain many different types of variables and values. The values can be repeated however many times as wanted. Index of items can be used to access and edit the value of the item. Note that the index always starts from 0. When the item at the first index of my list is printed, it will output 2 as its index is 1. Value of my list at index 2 will be changed from true to false as well. Size of the list or the number of items in the list can be found by using len. Here's a code that prints size of previous lists we made. This code will output 5, which is the length of the list and the number of items inside the list. Reverse function can be used to reverse order of items inside the list. When the code mylist.reverse is used, it will output 1, 3.14, true, 2, and 1. This will change my list to be reversed unless it is changed back into its non-reversed form using reverse again. Now we'll learn how to insert new items into the list and delete them. New items can be pushed into lists by using append. The second line including append will push the value 4 into the num list. This changes value of num list to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see, when new items are appended into the list, they are appended from the back. Function pop is used to remove one item of the list from the back. This code changes the value of num list back to 0, 1, 2, 3, as 4 was the item at the back and it was removed. Lists can be trimmed from the beginning and the ending. Let us define a new list of items. We can indicate index or indexes to trim our list values. The number at the left side of the column is the start, while the number at the right side of the column is the end. Note how when trimmed, the start index is included for the start, but the end index is not included. We can also use previously learned if statements with the lists. To check if a specific item or element exists in a list, the if statement below can be used. Since 0 is an item in the list, this program will output 1 exists. Index function can be used to get an index to the item. If item has duplicates, it will only fetch the index nearest to 0 as it was the fastest element to be located. This code will output 2 as index of the value 2 is equal to 2. We can also use loops with lists. Items in the list can be printed using loops, which makes them uniterable. For loops will be used for this example as it is more convenient to use. The first for loop gets all indexes from the list by using its length. Then it prints the item for each index. However, there is another better method to access the items. The second for loop iterates through each item in the list and prints them out. This code is shorter and easier to write. Both of them print A new line, B new line, and C new line. Similar to lists, each character in a string can be accessed by using its index. Value of greeting at index 0 would give us H, and value of greeting at index 1 would give us E, and so on and so forth. If we wanted to change value of capital H into a smaller h, we can change its value by using its index similar to lists. Functions such as len and reverse can be applied to strings as well. For loops and if statements similar to previous slides that we used on lists also can be applied to strings as well. Now let's move on to functions. Functions are codes that perform a specific task. Tasks such as printing a specific output or doing a specific calculation can be done by functions. Since writing long codes for a repeated task is inefficient and hard to read, functions containing long codes can be called by its name and used. Examples of built-in functions are print and input. However, we can create our own functions for a specific repeated task to simplify our code. Here is an example of a user-made function. We have defined a function called sayHello. When we call the function, it will print hello world as it is defined. Here is another example of a function that we made. This function takes in a value and it returns a value. The function takes in two variables, a and b. It will return the sum of variables as it is defined in the code. The returned value can be saved as another variable or be used in another function such as print, which outputs a tree. This is the end of the lesson for basic Python learning. Here are some questions to try out your skills. The questions and the presentation will be linked down below at the description. The answers to those questions will be posted on the presentation as well. I'll also make another video explaining on how I got the answers for the questions. Thank you for watching.